Mr. President, it's kind of a broad way to begin, but tell us, what is America's biggest problem right now?
Right now, world peace having been enhanced, progress having been made as we start a whole new approach to education, although we got big problems there, I think it's the economy. I think it is that people don't have confidence.
Unemployment figures just came out today for October, up another 0.1%,
Yeah.
6.8%. What can be done?
Well, first place, these things need to be in perspective. It doesn't help to tell someone that's out of work unemployment is 6.8%, and that's far lower than in recession times when I was vice president back in the 81, 82 days. It happens to be true. I would have a mixed message, and it would be this. One, for those that are hurting, we got to help. Those whose unemployment benefits have run out, send me a bill that I can sign that doesn't further burden everybody else by busting the budget agreement. Secondly, using hindsight, I would like to have thought that Congress would move on the package that I've put forward to stimulate economic growth. IRAs, a transportation bill, a capital gains reduction, and things that actually create jobs. Lacking that, we've got to fight for a package that will stimulate. And then thirdly, I'd say, I believe the economy is recovering. It grew at 2.4% over the previous quarter in the third quarter. And yet you go tell some guy at Compaq that's getting laid off, and he's not interested in that. He wants to know, how about my job, my family? I'm worried. And so I got to be careful I don't over cheerlead on this economy, but I don't want to talk people into a further lack of confidence, because it's a good time to buy a house, frankly. It's a good time to buy a car in terms of historic interest rates. It's a good time for sound banks to make sound loans, and we've got a banking reform bill that would further enhance credit. I've been worried about that. We're working with the regulators to lighten up on some of the regulation that is causing banks to loan less money. So the message is mixed, but when someone's hurting, I must be concerned, and I am, and we're trying hard.
Would you like to see Federal Reserve cut interest rates
Yes,
some more?
I'd like to see them down more. They've been worried, and I think at times properly worried about inflation. Nobody likes that insidious stealth tax that rips it out of everybody's pocketbook. But yes, I think we could get down more on rates. And again, our president has to be careful. What I say seems hard for you to believe, having known me all these years, but this affects the markets. And there's procedures for doing these things. But you've asked a frank question, and I've given you a frank answer.
You may have a Democratic opponent who's calling for a capital gains tax. I read
Great.
one of them, Songus, I think, says capital gains tax.
Well, a lot of them are talking about it now, but the old thinkers in Congress are unwilling to do it because they're thinking politically. We don't want to give the president a victory. I told him last night, I said, look, give me all the political grief. You call it a tax for the rich, lay that on, keep on with your rhetoric, but let's try it. It worked in '78. It created new jobs. It added revenues to the federal government, didn't cost the taxpayers a thing. Let's try it. Let's try to create jobs through the incentive that comes with entrepreneurship. It's small business that's the backbone of this country. And but we're in a political fight, and yet I think some are coming this way. I've even heard some of the most unlikely sources talking about it now. So we're going to keep on it. I'm not saying it's a magic that's going to solve everything, but our package will help a lot.
A lot of people blame our social ills in our country on the breakdown of the family, giving us social problems. Don't those eventually evolve into economic problems?
Certainly. And
Dave,
I'll tell you. Well, I'm not sure the federal government can do a heck of a lot about that. The dissolution of family, marriages breaking up wantonly and at random, children left with nobody knowing their names. I think one thing we can do is safeguard against legislation that is going to inflict mandates on families. I'm for parental choice, for example, in education. I fought hard and got a child care bill that lets the parents choose how this should work. I don't want to sound holier than thou, but you're on to something. The dissolution of the family is a bad thing, and I might put in a plug for what Barbara Bush does here, because I think I think the American people see in her somebody that epitomizes a family value. She goes into any neighborhood, doesn't matter who votes for who, it's not going to matter next year. She'll be there, holding somebody's hand, holding an AIDS baby in her arms, helping with education, getting parents to read to their children. You talk about family strength, that's a wonderful thing. And it may seem small to some people, but I think the American people see, well, that she practices what she preaches in terms of family. And I'm very proud of her, and I want to try myself to assist, and without trying to mastermind the family problems of individuals. But I worry about it all the time, the dissolution of the American family, the relaxing of traditional values. It troubles me, but you can't legislate it. It's not something that you can't legislate moral behavior in this country.
Another trouble spot that we have in Houston, and is, well, nationwide, but really in Houston, we've got a horrible crime problem, and we're one of the 5 drug hot spots in the country. You have said communities should solve their own problems, and understand that, but we're struggling. We're having a hard time. Is there more that
you're right. In the first place, the community action is a very important way. I hope I've not said it to the exclusion of federal participation. We've got a crime bill that would really support that proposes tough anti-crime legislation, habeas corpus reform, and a whole bunch of things that I think would strengthen the hand of the police, would be tougher on the criminals, including more rapid capital punishment for those that kill police officers and involved in this insidious narcotics business. So we have a program here that can help. But again, I think communities do have to move forward, and Houston's trying. Houston's trying hard. I think our police chief is trying hard in this. I think our officers, some of whom I know and respect, are out there on the front line. And what the federal government do is just must support them, and that's what our crime bill will do. But the liberal Democrats have a very different, softer kind of, let's help rehabilitate the criminal approach. And I think we've tried that, and it's failed. And yes, I'm for some rehabilitation, but I want to support the policeman on the block. And I don't care whether Democrat policeman, Republican policeman, liberal, conservative, they deserve our support. Yes. And I need some help from Congress.
Some speculation that the next drug summit might be held in Houston. You have any word on that?
Well, I'd like to see it held in the United States. The last one was in Cartagena. Right. You see, it's my view, and I'm not talking defensively here. I think that working with foreign countries on anti-narcotics, I don't think that's foreign policy. They say, Bush spends too much time on foreign policy. Yes, I went to Colombia and met with him, but I think that helps every neighborhood in Houston, Texas, if we can make more progress on interdicting drugs. Now, I've invited national leaders of many of these countries to a meeting next year, and I'd like to see it in the United States, and it might well turn out to be in Texas. Other states, of course, are interested, and some are accusing me of funneling a little too many events into Houston, but this is my home, and I'm not apologetic about it, and we're a crossroads. We're a community here that can handle these things well.
Our Governor, Ann Richards, she made a name for herself by kind of trashing you at that last convention. Would you like to say anything about the way she's run in the governor's office?
Well, I don't want to be too nice to her. I mean, but look, Ann had to do her thing, and she ran a good race, and I'm told that in many areas she's getting along just fine. But everybody forgives a little excess political rhetoric. I don't think she'll be running that same theme again in the future. If so, I'll unleash on her. I mean, but right now I'm in a kind and gentle mood towards our governor. She's helping on a lot of the education initiatives that I believe in. Most governors, you know, our Education 2000 program isn't Republican or Democrat. We got tons of Democratic governors supporting it. So the jury's still out on her. The jury's still out on me. And let's see how she does. But I'm not going to be carping and criticizing any governor of Texas. My state. One
last thing. Washington Redskins, Houston Oilers, RFK this Sunday. Who are you going to be rooting for?
I thought that might be the first thing with you, but no, I've said this publicly since I've been in Houston, and I always start off by saying I got great affection and respect for Joe Gibbs. You better have great affection and respect for Joe Gibbs if you want to live in Washington, even inside the fence in the White House. And besides that, he merits that. Joe is God, what he does, a great work he does with kids. But look, Jack Pardee's my friend. The Oilers are my hometown club. Warren Moon is a guy not only that I respect, but I believe he'd recognize that we have a friendship too. And so I want the Oilers to win it. And I want them to go on and do so well that Barbara and I receive them in the White House as Super Bowl champs. So put that one out there, and I'll go back and take the flag in D.C. tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. President, and
Good to see you again,
sir.
Thank you.
Good to see you, sir.
Nice reunion.
Really was.